Hello everyone, welcome. I'm here again for Spellbinders, and I'm going to give you a close-up look at their clear stamp and die of the month for April. The set is called Happy Moments, and you can buy the set with or without the coordinating dies. This is what the set looks like. It is a birthday and gift-themed set. Let me pull this out of the bag and give you a closer look. These are the dies, and they cut out almost everything except for two of the sentiments. So let's start inking up this set. These are really nice photopolymer stamps, and I'm going to use a piece of craft cardstock to stamp these out onto. We'll peel off the little, or it's actually a large stamp here, the parcels or the packages. I really like the heavy line weight on these. I'm going to pull out some brown ink. The ink is called Fallen Leaves, and it's a VersaFine Clair ink. It almost looks black, but it's just a very deep, rich brown. With this ink, you usually only have to stamp it out once. It's a very nice ink. It does take a little bit longer to dry than your dye inks. But let's go ahead and pull this out of the Mini Misty and tape down the coordinating die. I'm going to be careful not to smudge this. I love that this die cuts out all of these presents. And then I'll tape it down with a little bit of this yellow tape. There's a lot that you can do with this cute stamp set, but today's card is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to leave the packages pretty much brown, so they look like they're brown paper packages tied up with string, as the song says. I'll use this same piece of paper to stamp out several bows. And I love that the coordinating dies cut these out as well. And I'm going to stack them up and stamp them out with my acrylic block. That way I can stamp out several sets of these bows. My grandmother used to call packages that came wrapped in brown paper, she would call them parcels. I don't think I hear that term anymore. I think we all just call them packages. But I loved her old-fashioned way of talking. So let's stamp out one more set of the bows. Then I'll tape down the dies so they don't shift, and most of these I'm going to cut out off camera, but I'll have all of these ready to go. Aren't those cute? I end up cutting out more than I actually need, but that's okay. I'll just save them for another project. I'm pulling in some Spellbinders cardstocks to add a little bit of color to this card. I have Dahlia, Beeswax, and Peridot, and I'm going to cut these down into strips. So I'll pull out a panel of each color, and then I'll use my paper trimmer to start cutting these up into strips. I'm sure you've seen this technique done before, but I'm going to cut them up into different sized strips, and I'll be putting them down onto my white card panel, as you see up at the left there. This will make a bright and fun background to go behind the parcels. So I'll put them tentatively down on the white panel just to see how many strips I need, and then the different sizes that I want. And as I said, some I'm cutting really thin, like the green one, and some really thick, like the pink one. There's another thin yellow strip, but I love these three colors together. This technique is a great way to use up those leftover pieces of cardstock or pattern paper as well. So once I have enough pieces, then I can start putting this panel together. So here is my last green piece. I'm going to use some score tape, and this is a whole sheet of score tape. This is a very strong tape. I'll attach a piece of white cardstock to it. Just line it up in the corner. And then I can cut around it and save the leftover strips of score tape for another project. I like to use my bone folder just to press it into the white cardstock. And then I will peel this off. and start adding my strips. I'll put these down in order, starting with a pink strip of cardstock. I'm just trying to get into the very corner of this panel. And then the next one, I will butt up against it as closely as I can. I don't want any gaps in between these pieces. And then I'll just keep progressing up this panel with all of the different sizes of strips of cardstock. And here it is, all done. I decided to use a rectangle die to cut this down a little bit smaller, and I had to run it through my die cut machine twice because it's two thicknesses of cardstock here that it had to cut through. But here it is all ready to use. Isn't that cute? And then I can keep the leftovers and cut it into strips or add it to the insides of my cards. So this is basically what it's going to look like. So I'll set this aside for a minute and stamp out the sentiment. I'm going to use the large happy birthday sentiment. And I'm stamping this up onto a piece of Dahlia cardstock with more of the Fallen Leaves ink. I'll use the coordinating dies. I love how it cuts out the happy birthday. So cute. So the sentiment is ready to go, and now I'm going to attach the bows to these parcels. This was really easy to do, just with a little dab of glue. I think this would look cute popped up with a little foam square as well. And then before I attach this to my background, I'm going to do a little bit of coloring, some very simple coloring. So I pulled out some Prismacolor pencils, the same colors as my paper strips, and I'm just going to color in the ribbons. So I'm starting off with my greens. I'll add my lightest green first. Then for a little bit of shading, I chose a darker green. And I'm just adding a little bit of shading to the edges of the ribbon. And now for the Dahlia pink. And then shading, of course. And then the last will be the yellow. So 2 parcels I did with green, 2 pink, and 2 yellows. And the colored pencils just really pop off of this craft cardstock. If you've never used your colored pencils on craft cardstock, I highly recommend it. It's so much fun to do. First, I'm going to attach a piece of Peridot cardstock onto my white card base. And then I cut out another panel of the craft cardstock using Spellbinders hem stitch dies. I'll glue this down next, and I like how the green shows through the little hem stitching. Just adds a little touch of bright color. I'm adding glue to the outer edge of the hem stitching as well as to the center. And then I can put that down next. The striped cardstock is going to be a little bit smaller than the hem stitching, and I'll center that. It's nice to use glue, then you can just kind of wiggle it into place. And now for the parcels, and I did pop them up with some foam pieces. And I'm just going to put this down at the side of the card. I also use some foam strips behind the sentiments. And I'll use my tweezers just to place these down. It helps to get my hands out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. I'll pull off the backing and adhere down the birthday. I really love the craft cardstock on this card in particular because of these cute parcels. I'll add a few gold gemstones around the happy birthday sentiment. And that completes the card. Well, I hope you enjoyed this close-up look at the clear stamp and die of the month for April from Spellbinders. And again, this one is called Happy Moments. I'll have the link to this club kit listed out in the description box below if you're interested in checking it out. You'll find all of the April club kit links there as well. Thanks for watching and for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you were inspired. Take care, my crafty friends. I'll be back again soon with another Club Kit video. Bye.